Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to all of our viewers. This is a series of webinars we're putting together. My name is Rafael Perez with Invest Puerto Rico. I'm the Senior Business Development Director, located out of New York, covering the East Coast here. And it gets me excited here to welcome a few of our panelists from some of our key companies on the island, Honeywell, Isla Frio, and OcyonBio. Today's conversation is going to be based on securing the supply chain, what this means for reshoring and onshoring. For many of our viewers on the audience, our companies that we have on the island, from pharma to medical device to manufacturing, are here for many reasons, and we'll talk about that throughout the panel. Invest Puerto Rico, we are a nonprofit economic development organization that is focused on attracting new business, being the one-stop shop, and servicing companies that might be looking for sites, talent availability, understanding the entire ecosystem from incentives and other benefits that are here and available for companies that are looking to expand their physical footprint on the island. We were established back in 2017, and we are a team throughout the island that is focused on certain sectors like bioscience, advanced manufacturing, aerospace, energy, and a few others. I want to welcome, and I'm very excited to welcome our panelists today. For us, Puerto Rico, being a destination in over 60 years of manufacturing legacy, we serve. We are host to many of the big pharma. 12 out of the top 20, 7 out of the top 10 medical device companies are here home with companies like Honeywell, Medtronic, Stryker, Lilly, to name a few, including Amgen, and continue to grow. And they've been here for many decades because of our talent pool. The actual workforce here represents over 94,000 of the workforce, which is key for us. And it all boils down to that's our DNA. We've been doing this for many decades. And with the local universities that we have, over 80 plus universities producing key engineers, graduating over 20,000 STEM graduates per year. And we want to keep them here. We want to produce local talent and bring and attract more companies. There's a lot of conversation about reshoring and what that means for companies in Asia, Eastern Europe, with some of the instability, some of the political environment and issues that are happening with the conversation that's about on chips, manufacturing, conversation about how do we get product to the local U.S. market quicker, more efficient, avoid another issue during the pandemic where we had now with getting PPP products and so on, components to the aerospace aviation industry. How do we get new products, drugs quicker through commercialization, which you'll hear a little bit more from companies like OcyonBio. And again, we are in a location, we're a U.S. territory that is benefits from companies that want to be here from being a U.S. jurisdiction, IP protection, and so on. And again, it all boils down to an attractive talent pool that we have here that speaks 3 languages, Spanish, English, and bioscience, I would say. I don't want to take too much time here from our panelists because I do want them to talk a little bit about their companies and what they're doing, their capabilities, and how what they're doing now, and what it means for their sectors and some of the trends that they foresee. So I'm going to introduce first Isla Frio, Bismarck Marcus, General Manager, who's a cold storage supplier here on the island. Bismarck, can you give us a little background about your company and what you offer?
Yeah, I'm Bismarck Marcus, General Manager, Isla Frio Refrigeration. We are a cold storage facility, pharma and food compliance, FDA, USDA. We offer right now 5 types of temperature for storage: 20 below, 5 below, 36, 65, a dry with over 12,000 pallet position in order, to support our customer managing their inventory. We, in a top tier facility located here in Sidra, Puerto Rico.
That's very exciting. Thank you, Bismarck. I'll switch it over to Luis at Honeywell.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Luis Ramos. I'm the Senior Engineering Director for Honeywell Aerospace, and I'm also the site leader for our Research and Technology Center. And, someone figured that I needed a bit more to do. So I have a worldwide center of excellence, engineering center of excellence. So have some resources in India, specifically Bangalore, Brno, Czech Republic, China, Canada, and about 5 states in the mainland. And we are an aerospace company, mostly focused on helicopters, commercial aviation, but also defense and space. And we do mostly design type work, and we can almost do about 80% of an airplane, of the parts on an airplane. Everything from the brakes to the guidance and navigation systems, everything that the pilots need to navigate that plane. We can do it, the control systems for environmental on the inside of the cockpit. We can also do. So we work mostly with the primes. So you might have heard of the Boeings, the Embraers, the Airbus of the world. That's kind of who we primarily work for. And we have 3 sites in Puerto Rico. We have 2 on the northwest side of the island, and we, about a year or so ago, inaugurated a business center in the metropolitan area. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Luis. It's very exciting about your recent expansion on the aftermarket investment in Guaynabo. Robert Salcedo with OcyonBio, based in Aguadilla. Give us a little bit of background.
So I'm Robert Salcedo. I'm the CEO and co-founder of OcyonBio. OcyonBio is a specialty landing pad that allows companies that are in early R&D, development, commercial, in the areas of gene cell therapy, viral vector manufacturing, and commercial drug product to land in Puerto Rico. We have a campus of 200,000 square feet here in Aguadilla. We have a team of experts that have 25 years of experience working both in gene and cell therapy. And our motto is to enable companies to come to Puerto Rico and leverage the existing talent, the educational system, and the CGMP expertise to allow them to quickly and progressively move from R&D to clinical to commercial. We have about 200,000 square feet of space, and our motto is that our companies are able to take up as much as 50,000 square feet of space on their own. They're able to, we will customize the space and the company can autonomously operate. So we call it a interconnected infrastructure. So the companies don't have to build their own warehouse. They don't have to build their own lab. They only focus really on their core science, allowing speed and cost reduction. So welcome everyone, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Robert. Before we get to the questions, just some housekeeping items. I know many of you, our viewers, submitted some questions in advance, and thank you for those that submitted a question. We won't get through each one of them, but we'll follow up and address those. And this is being recorded, so look out for the recording to you all. But again, thank you for submitting those questions. There were some good ones there that we wanted to run through, and we can't get to all 15, 20 of them, but we'll get to those that we can address. I'll kick it off with Luis at Honeywell. Obviously, you're directly working with you have a design center here on the island, and you continue to expand. Supply chain, obviously, being core topic here. Some of the constraints and issues that you see, challenges. How do you see suppliers outside of the island working a lot closer with the manufacturing industry here in Puerto Rico? Can you tell us the opportunities there you see, whether it is certain components that you don't see limitations to for shipping into the island, but to those suppliers that are out there, what are some key ingredients that you guys are looking for at Honeywell and beyond the other industries that you're working from your peers?
No, absolutely. Thank you. So, it's important that we understand where the industry is going, and the aerospace industry is seeking to double its size in the next 20 years. So that's quite powerful. And obviously with COVID, the whole aerospace industry took quite a hit. But we're getting back to those pre-2019 flying hours levels. Okay, and just so you have an idea, back in 2019, which was the highest number of flying hours ever, you could ask for a plane and it will last 2 years before that plane was delivered, right? So we're coming out of COVID and we're seeing a very significant demand on aircraft delivery and everything related to aerospace. So with that said, one of the things that we found is that the supply chain was not ready to produce enough parts. And it seemed a bit fragile, probably also due to the widespread labor issues that are going on worldwide. But they were also not properly managing their inventory or their supply chains after the pandemic. So what we're looking for suppliers is that can act with agility, with speed, that remain flexible. There are certainly many areas of opportunity. When you think about it, airplanes, before you land, that plane has already signaled the ground crew of what part is giving them problems so that they can have that part there ready to be repaired and a quick turnaround time on the runway. So as we move into the future, there are opportunities to continue growth on unmanned air vehicles, subsonic flight, things like that. And all of that are going to require specialty materials, companies that can, and suppliers that can work with alloys, additive manufacturing. It's also another great opportunity. And actually, I'm going to share quickly a story. We had a supplier in Puerto Rico. And we were trying to get him into our systems, and this person was willing to do through additive manufacturing pretty much the parts that were not significant in volume. And that's how this company started. Now that company 3 years later is doing a couple of $1 million in terms of business with Honeywell. So there are those opportunities, but it's important that companies remain flexible. They remain on top of the technology and understand where it is that the industry is going.
Bismarck, would you like to add anything to that, or Robert?
Sure.
I think when we look at critical supply, airplanes are very, very important. I'll give you a good example later on the importance of also managing other critical supplies, for example, cellular products that are required to save a patient's life that's dying on the other side. Once we finish this, I'll give you a good example of how we're managing critical supply chains for our customers.
Yeah. I mean, let's dive into that a little deeper, Robert, because I know nearshore is vitally important for Latin America and the Caribbean. And how does Puerto Rico distinguish themselves amongst other competitors? I know you have a great example of how do we, when it comes to speed and accelerating bioscience innovation tech. Obviously, we have a historic manufacturing base here for over 60 years now. There's research and development that plays a critical role there, getting product through clinical trials to commercialization. Commercialization. Can you share some stories there? I know you have some examples you wanted to touch on.
So if you just repeating what you said, well, Puerto Rico has 60 years of pharmaceutical and device expertise. That expertise comes with managing cold chain. And Bismarck will talk a little bit about cold chain a little bit, but the cold chain infrastructure in Puerto Rico, if you really look at the numbers, $70+ billion of product are shipped from Puerto Rico, and about 82% of those are cold chain. But for us, the most critical supply chain is cells. So for us, in terms of getting a patient to its curative state, we need to be able to transition and transport cells from California to Puerto Rico in rapid time. We have 48 hours from the cells coming out of the patient to it landing in our site. We just finished doing a study that include using FedEx Critical, using the Cardinal Health, using both local and commercial airlines. where we've modeled that we're able to take any product, cellular products that have this critical stability in nature, move from California to Puerto Rico in 36 hours. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens as a result of the infrastructure that's been built here for over 60 years. It also happens because there's a lot of people who understand how to manage critical supply. Just like Amgen manufactures products for people with cancer that are leaving the island every day, people understand how critical it is to manage the supply chain from the beginning to the end. So the concept of chain of custody is pretty normal for Puerto Rico. The concept of managing inventory at a unitary basis is pretty normal in Puerto Rico. So I think that criticality in supply chain relative to managing medicinal products that are of specific code nature and co-nature in mind are key to making my company successful. And our study shows that even if you ship product from Australia to Puerto Rico, we can get it here in under 50 hours, which is a phenomenal results just in any benchmark. So just a good example of how we're trying to get our customers here and also create life-saving products for our patients.
Absolutely. That obviously cold chain solutions is key to making this all work. Isla Frio, Bismarck, you're in the middle of all this. How do we, looking at the overall trends now, how you're servicing clients not only on the pharma but also in the food industry as well.
Absolutely.
How do you what insight can you give us about and how does Puerto Rico fit the map here and the roadmap for allowing the supply chain to really work efficiently from servicing both the U.S. mainland and the rest of the world, I would say?
Absolutely. And that's what we identify, understanding that there was a need for a cold storage facility, multi-temperature, but not just that, is to be a partner for our customer, offering a customized services, offering the right technology, with the real-time inventory visibility, allowing our customers to take the decision, manage better their inventory, offering the right compliance, quality, QA, in order just that we also comply with the quality at pharma level, manufacturing level, retail, wholesale level. And putting all together, we are, becoming a partner with our customer, allowing them focus on their manufacturing or maximizing their strength, and us managing their practically not just a storage. We can be a total logistic provider for our customer in the island, and looking for not just improve their inventory, their purchasing, or also looking for other business like becoming a hub out of Puerto Rico. Right now we are moving to offer a FTC also, and that will allow our customer taxes saving, but growing, exporting out of Puerto Rico.
Let me follow up on that. You mentioned free trade zone. Now, obviously, there's been an inflation hike. Tariffs being also hiked from Asia. Do you see any creating any barriers for the type of clients that you're serving right now, Bismarck?
Well, always the government. We need to work along with the government for the permit. All the like FTC, as I mentioned. We need to tender permits, whatever. But the opportunity are there. We have the infrastructure, we have the people, the right education, and now like companies like us that are offering the right partnerships to allow our customers growth, and look for possibility to export out of here to international markets.
Great, thank you, Bismarck.
So Bismarck, when you look at Puerto Rico and you have these hurricane events that are shown on CNN, people forget how resilient this island is. So if you look at the spaces that we all work on, what Luis work on, Bismarck work, and those spaces even through Maria, we're up and running in 48 to 72 hours. Obviously, we feel bad about those people who got wildly affected, which was important. But one of the couple of things that our customers always bring up is how resilient the island is. The other one is, and I think Bismarck, you hit this right on the nose, is operational risk is a big component of doing business, especially for very high cost pharmaceuticals like the one we're both in. And operationally, all of our systems, all of our equipment, all of our facilities are designed to sustain these hurricane events. And sometimes we forget that from a supply chain standpoint, after Maria, 48 hours later, the plane was already in the air. So thank you for Luis creating those great airplanes. They were in the air in 48 hours. And people forget that happened. We only look at the devastation, which is absolutely a 100-year event, but they don't look at the recovery and resiliency part. So supply chain requires resiliency. So just give you a great example, Austin was out of power for 6-7 days. They're not built resilient. They don't have generators. They don't have backup. They're not resilient. We're here, and everybody talks about power outage. Power outage for us is just an event that we manage on a daily basis without any impact to operation. So I know as you look at the supply chain, Rafael, a key component of the supply chain is having all these resilient backup of a backup of a backup that allows Bismarck and I to sleep well, even no matter what's happening on the outside of our wall. So an important consideration as you think of supply chain and supply risk.
Yeah,
Robert, thank you to mention that, because that's very important. In our case, our DRP, disaster recovery plan, has multiple redundancies. All our technology is cloud-based in the mainland. Backup generator, Viking thermal energy, that we have multiple redundancies in order. We are being able to, last September, when hurricane hit the island, we never stopped. We keep providing services to our customers.
And Rafa, to expand on that, infrastructure risk will always exist, right? But they can be mitigated. And to Rafa's point, one of the things that we have shown is resiliency, because we are prepared for it, right? Actually, prior to Maria, we had more downtime at some of our sites in the Northwest due to snowstorms than in Puerto Rico due to tropical storms or hurricanes. So that's so that, because we usually think it's an island that, of course, there are, we have a hurricane season, that there are certain risks associated to it. But when you go into the practical downtime that your companies, as you move here, experience related to that, it's very minimal. And if you're thinking of establishing operations here, the recommendation is obviously to do your due diligence and ask peer companies what their mitigating plans are to ensure their business continuity. But I think that one of the things that you will find is that not only in terms of infrastructure you can prepare, but the people, which is a key component that, right, for us to get our products out, are resilient also. They also prepare themselves. They also understand how to work under these conditions. And that minimizes the interruption of the business.
Great points here. I mean, we talked about infrastructure, redundancy, resiliency, of course. That's all part of our DNA, and I think that's a key part of our value proposition. Going back to you, Luis, and being with your recent expansion of the aftermarkets, and you're talking to other suppliers. Sounds like obviously infrastructure being a key decision factor. But are there any other areas that are very relevant now in order to get more, what you see for suppliers wanting to have a location or footprint on the island or in Latin America, Caribbean? Any other factors that you see play a role?
Yeah, so the main thing that we're seeing is obviously infrastructure and manpower. Okay. And manpower for our suppliers is a key enabler. Some of our suppliers, for example, do parts that need to be welded. but it's just not any type of welding, right? You can't send something into space. If the weld breaks, go send someone up there, right, to re-weld that component. So for us, having access to the right level of talent, whether it's on the engineering, the technical side, the business side, is something that not only we ourselves are, highly value, but also our suppliers that are establishing operations also look to have, to benefit from the labor that we have in Puerto Rico. And we were mentioning that we have over 60 years in manufacturing, right? So one of the things that we've also found is that you will be able to find very specific specialty skill sets in Puerto Rico that you probably did not think even existed. So we've been able to tap into a highly technical and skilled labor force that is on the island, and that is something that our suppliers, as they seek to provide products for us, are able to tap into also.
So Rafa, just like real estate, location, I think Puerto Rico has talent. So if you think of it, this little teeny island graduates 25,000 scientists a year. Is the sixth highest concentration of engineers in the planet. Is the number one graduate of women engineer in the world. In this little teeny island, an incredible feat. And that doesn't happen by accident, right? That happens as a result of 60 years of pharmaceutical experience where these colleges have been designed and the programs have been created to enable these people to graduate and be a part of our workforce. Right next to us is the University of Maya West, which is a spectacular engineering school, top 20 engineering school in the U.S., based on USA War Report. They graduate 50 to 150 scientists every quarter to understand gene and cell therapy, viral manufacturing, biologics. And if I had to do that in the U.S., I wanted to spend a year and a half just training them just to get into my facility. When I hire those folks, they understand the science, they understand the equipment, because they deal with it as part of their program. So part of Puerto Rico's infrastructure is not only the resiliency when it comes to backup generation, backup disaster and recovery, but the amount of resources that we can bring on either as graduates, all the existing workforce that exceeds over hundreds of thousands of employees that support our business. So I think talent for me is the core competency for the island, and along with the infrastructure, which is designed with the resiliency that we talked about in the early conversation.
Great. You touched on talent. I mean, that I would say that's the biggest currency, the biggest incentive we could offer our companies when they look at the island. And that's obviously a big issue right now with the talent shortage, which is key component of the supply chain. I want to go back to Bismarck's comment earlier about how to, policies that need to be in place. But what are your recommendations for how to accelerate reshoring for the island and be competitive? What's your recommendation working with both the public and the private sector? There's a lot of conversation in Congress. Obviously, I'm very optimistic about this whole Build Back Better. Puerto Rico being, if it's made in Puerto Rico, it's made in the USA. We obviously are competitive in that regard. But any suggestions about how to accelerate this through the help of both the public and the private sector? You being in the middle of it, working with both food industry folks and also the farmers.
At least helping, improving the permit process, methodology, if the government has then the procedure to grant a permit, it's going to help a lot. The grid, we need to keep improving, strengthening the grid. I think this is key to the success of the island. And last but not least, the Made in America in the Congress. If we are considered as a domestic, it will help us to keep bringing companies, industries to Puerto Rico.
Good. Robert, you spent some time in Asia. I know that the last few weeks, and curious to see what's the pulse there? How are these Asian companies thinking about where am I going to have my +1, or how do I shift gears out and start rethinking about moving some of my line of business?
So interesting, Rafa. I was in Taiwan with a company that's going to be landing in Puerto Rico, and they were comparing the Puerto Rico incentives to what Taiwan does. They've actually had me give them a 2-hour presentation to the head of the state there to describe what Puerto Rico is doing, so they can use it as an example for creating some of the things that we're doing. I think the thing before I give you my feedback on I want to first comment on the good things that are happening. I think that Puerto Rico's business incentives and its ability to develop these variable components to attract new companies is fantastic. That's going pretty well. I think your team, Invest Puerto Rico, the Department of Economic Development with Manuel Isidre, Humberto Mercader, and Victor are doing a phenomenal job just trying to bring Puerto Rico to light. So a lot of good things happening there. If I was to look at the area where we need to work through to be able to enable a faster turnaround is agility. I think we need to be a little more agile on the elements that we produce. And Bismarck is right. One of the areas of agility is understanding that speed is a very important winning formula for us to win any business. We can't be waiting 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks to be able to fabricate or build a building. Those are weeks that are precious, and our competitors will eat us alive if we continue to do that. So for me, agility is the key. But I also want to comment that you guys are doing a fantastic job with the tools that you have, and I commend Ella Wager, Manuel Caesar for doing such a phenomenal job in that space. So we have a lot of work to do, but I'm very optimistic that the work that we've launched can be completed, and we'll get better every day.
Absolutely. Thank you for those comments, Robert. I want to open this to all of you. I mean, I'm very optimistic about 2023. There's a lot of components that are in play now, both on the mainland and all over the world, and some stabilities, lots of reactions on this supply chain, lots of states getting ready on this whole CHIPS Act. But what's your take on the next 2 years? How does the sector look like in supply chain? I mean, in your crystal ball, what does your pulse? What does the pulse tell you, Bismarck? I'll start with you.
There's a lot of challenges, but again, how I see the manufacturing due to the Russia situation, China situation, the supply chain situation with all the ocean carrier. I think the manufacturing is getting stronger. They are looking to improve their inventory, supply chain, purchasing pattern. And in our case, we're looking to support our customers in those areas. Retail, I think, a little bit going slow at the first quarter of the year. And this is how I see it right now. Retail going slower, but manufacturing moving faster.
Thank you, Bismarck. Luis, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely see quite a bit of growth. And I'm going to backtrack, just if I can, for a second, back to Robert's comment in regards to partnering with the government and Invest Puerto Rico, or the Department of Economic Development. I mean, the government of Puerto Rico, at least for us, have been key allies in ensuring that we continue to grow our business. And at least in our sector for the last decade, it's continued to grow significantly. And we found out that working with the government really facilitates establishing our operations here. They've become enablers for us to do business. Back when we did our electromagnetic interference lab, that is an 80,000 square feet building. And by partnering with the government, we were able to have that building done in less than a year from the groundbreaking to the time that we move everyone in. So they move, we stress the importance of doing it with speed, with doing it with agility. They understood it, they partnered with us, and we were able to be very successful. So we do see quite a bit of continuous growth. Actually, we were at a meeting earlier this week, and I had the opportunity to talk to one of the GMs in a company that actually came out of Honeywell. It was a section of Honeywell that was bought out, and they decided to also establish operations here. And they're looking to more than double or triple their size in the next 2 years, kind of going from 300 to almost 1,000 people. So there is still continued significant growth on the aero sector in Puerto Rico. Now we have pretty much 3 or 4 of the main OEMs and the big players in the aero sector now doing business out of Puerto Rico, when 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that did not exist. So we do see that trend continuing. The hiring will continue, and the need for their suppliers will continue.
Thank you, Luis.
So,
Robert, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, going to your question. If you look at the global, how the global perspective is looking right now, we're hearing words like inflationary headwinds, soft landing. Those are key words for optimization, right? So we have a great opportunity in 2023 to optimize. To optimize requires a pretty hard climb, which means that we got to look at all of the areas that we're trying to do. And everybody's trying to do 3 things, right? Everybody's trying to get to the next inflection point, whether you're a startup like us or you are trying to get to the next level. So for the next inflection point, optimization is key. Speed, which is the core component that enables this inflection points to be done as effectively as possible. So 2023, I see as a pretty hard climb. The supply chain issues that you are describing will be critical in order to stave off any real inflations and enable the soft landing to occur. I think the way I see Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico labor force is tightening in a big way, which is good for the island, but it will challenge us to make sure that we're also able to keep up and keep the best people in our staff. So 2023 will be, I think, a very hard climb, but it would be a big change relative to the 2020 COVID period. And we're going to look back and look at 2023 as a critical year for enabling technology and optimization in the supply chain area. That's kind of how I see 2023. And before that, I think the political issues that are happening in China are critical issues that we should be taking advantage of. But Puerto Rico has all those benefits without having all those political headwinds. So as you look at China will play a key role for how this optimization, how Puerto Rico enables the next steps for 2030 and beyond.
Certainly agree. I mean, this whole security aspect that we haven't even touched on, I mean, it's obviously from cybersecurity becoming a big topic of conversation. How do we get products to be made in a U.S. territory and avoid any security issues? It's important for policy. I want to sort of, we talked about talent, real estate, and a little bit, and also our key assets, right, on the island for companies to be successful here. For us, we as Invest Puerto Rico, we are in the role of helping companies recruit local talent, finding available sites, whether it is in a free trade zone, industrial warehouse, or even Class A office space. We have access to that. Also, making it a smooth landing for companies. The ease of doing business is ensuring that comfort level for reducing the risk and adding more confidence for these CEOs that we're talking to every day to establish on the island. Our incentives programs, I mean, are something that we didn't touch on. I mean, we're U.S. territory, and there's our local tax rate is very attractive. We're very competitive, offering a 4% local tax rate, and then there's also research and development. I know, Robert, you've had the opportunity to coming from a place like California, for those viewers that are out there, and other competitive high cost jurisdictions to states like even New York, New Jersey. How critical is that now? Obviously, is very, because there's also a cost reduction that our companies are looking into. How do they improve the bottom line? Can you touch a little bit, Robert, about your experience working with Invest Puerto Rico, but also how do you see that compared to other high state taxes like California and other destinations in like New York, New Jersey?
OcyonBio is in Puerto Rico not by accident, right? So we actually looked at Australia. We looked at staying in India, which we have a subsidiary. We looked at Ireland, and I stay in California. So when we look at the overall incentives that are being provided by the Puerto Rican government through their laws in Act 60 and through the grants that are available, there's nothing better. So the closest thing to Puerto Rico is Australia, and Australia is still about 37% less incentivized. So when we look at me being in Puerto Rico, I see it as a competitive advantage. We're able to get top talent. We're able to use the Puerto Rico government incentives to reduce our costs. But most importantly, again, our clients want speed because they're all trying to get to the next inflection point. So I think for me, speed and optimization is the critical component of being here. And that comes with leveraging the talent and the infrastructure we spoke earlier. So that's why OcyonBio is here, because we're able to leverage the talent, the speed, and the infrastructure. And that is what we're hoping to use to get products into the market. Our mission at the end of the day is to provide affordable medicines to the world. And with that in mind, we need to find places that we can execute with the most financially optimal way possible.
Great, thank you for that comment, Robert. Luis, I know that plays also a key role in order for Honeywell to succeed and expand further beyond, just a design center. How do you see that? Was that your decision of expanding to a place like Guaynabo? Was it mostly because of talent, or just serving the aftermarket there? Relocating all your aftermarkets in Latin America to Puerto Rico, it's a huge success, and I think that's a huge benefit. But can you tell us a little bit about that decision that was made at Honeywell?
Oh, absolutely. And not only do we expand the aftermarket business in Guaynabo, we've also expanded another 4 engineering labs at the Aguadilla and the Moca facility. So, and obviously the incentive program that the government of Puerto Rico provides will assist you in establishing those operations, right? But make no mistake, once you establish that and get it going, what will make you stay is the talent that we have here. And that you can have all the incentives in the world, but then you don't have the workforce to do that work. Mm-hmm. You're really not doing much, right? So the help that we receive from and the assistance from the government of Puerto Rico has been a key enabler in starting those operations. But the people and the talent that we have is what has permitted to continue to grow those operations on the island.
Right. Mark, I know you've obviously you're growing. You've got this. You're serving the cold chain solutions, mm-hmm. and curious to hear from the companies that you're working with. Are you starting to see more activity on the pharma or food industry space? Obviously, pharma being a big bulk of your business. Is that you starting to see a trend there?
Absolutely. Our growth right now, we're expanding. We are being operational for a year and a half, and we are already expanding. We're adding around 6,000 to 7,000 pallet position at 65 CRT, control room temperature, mostly focused for the manufacturing and pharma. Because there is the demand, the pipeline is there, and the pharma and manufacturing industry is asking for that temperature. And this is where we are moving on.
Very exciting. I do want to recap, and I do, we're almost a few minutes away from wrapping up here, and I really appreciate for those viewers that are still online. But I want to kind of going back to why Puerto Rico, right? We're here as Invest Puerto Rico being the one-stop shop, is that if you have a project, bring it to us. Of course, we can help. And we're talking to companies like OcyonBio, Isla Frio, Honeywell, and we could use more here on the island. We talked about talent. Obviously, that's a huge attractiveness of the island, I would say, and I would say for those looking to reshore, or even look at us, even if you're a supplier to the industry of aerospace or pharma, look at us a lot closer, because we have a strong cluster of companies that we could facilitate an introduction. And it's an island of people, 2 million people. I mean, and it's around 3 million people, but everyone knows each other. There's a huge opportunity to network here. And we are a good facilitator, and that's Puerto Rico is of doing that. You heard about talent, you heard about our incentives, the infrastructure that is in place to make it a easier value chain for you to be more efficient and deliver product at speed. So speed seems to be a very key, just based on Robert's comment, but also becoming more agile. And I think that's what's going to be the next phase for a lot of these other destinations that are becoming, or states, both on and off globally, that are starting to become more competitive. So I really appreciate all the comments. Those questions that we couldn't get to, I promise we'll follow up and answer those. But I really appreciate the viewers that were online. And I want to say thank you again to the panelists. Robert, thank you again. Bismarck and Luis for being great partners and collaborating with us and sharing with the world what we have to offer. Because Puerto Rico, it's the place you want to be and set up your next investment. But so look us up. We're going to be having this recorded. If you want to check out more of our content and some of our information, that we're going to be a lot on our website. It's at www.investpr.org, and my contact information is on there. And if you need any introductions to the gentlemen that are here on our panel, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you again for everyone that joined. Have a great rest of your day.